There are lots of things you can spend your tax refund on, but one thing you don't have to spend it on, a new smartphone. Switch to Metro PCS now and get not one, but 2 free 4G LTE smartphones for brands like Samsung and LG. Plus, you're on T-Mobile's blazing fast nationwide 4G LTE network. Hurry! Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free smartphones after instant rebate. One heck of a deal, only at Metro PCS. Limited time offer. Sales tax not included in phone price. Coverage and services not available everywhere. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Fort Bragg's backyard, this is the show that put the 110 Nation on the map. There is only one nation, the 110 Nation, and you're listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show, covering each and every sport across the board. There is no sport too large or too little. It's time to talk the talk. Here we go. Here's the man, the founder, and your host, Mr. CJ Sports.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Also, check us out on Facebook. My personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports 110 Nation fan page. 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check out our blog site, www.the110nation.com. Also, check out, the www.the110nationsports.com. And then check out our company site, www.the110nation.com. For all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Glad to be here on this Wednesday. Yes, it is Hump Day. We are here tonight to get you through the week, to help make this week just kind of slide by, ease just a little bit easier. We got two great guests joining us tonight, and those that are tuning in, and thoughts that you're going to see Dylan Lupton, that's who we put in the show description tonight. Plans that got changed. We got him actually joining us Friday night this week, as he was in flight tonight when the show was going on down to Florida for the race this weekend. So he was unable to join us tonight, but nonetheless, he will be joining us Friday night. But, of course, we couldn't just not have somebody step into his place. We couldn't just not have a two-guest show tonight. I mean, this is Wednesday, for crying out loud. So Ms. Lee pulled out some resources, lined up another guest in place of Dylan Lumpton tonight. So we're looking forward to, I'm trying to do 20,000 things here at once in the studio. But nonetheless, we do have someone to step into his place tonight, and looking forward to having an opportunity to learn a little something about a whole new guest. Dylan was going to be a returning guest for him or for us, and as much as we love to have returning guests, it speaks a lot about us, and when we have athletes that are wanting to come back on the show. But it's always great to expand our horizons and expand and have new guests on. So in his place, we have BJ McLeod. And I know I probably jacked that up. Car owner, driver. Looking forward to having him come on the show. We published a couple pieces about BJ McLeod. Is it McLeod or McLeod? I'm gonna go with McLeod. And my luck is going to be backwards. I know my luck. I got it wrong. But we've got a couple of press releases over on the blog site over www.110nationsports.com. There's the great things coming out of that organization over there. So looking forward to having an opportunity to actually sit down and talk with the team owner/driver over there. So looking forward to that. And, of course, we got Cole Powell from Triple M, yes, Mason Mitchell Motorsports Racing. Got him coming on here at 9:30 here in about 10 minutes. So looking forward to the opportunity of sitting down with Cole and having him on the show. I'm very, very excited about that opportunity. Two first-timers tonight. Something out of the ordinary. No, I'm not gonna say something out of the ordinary, but it's great to have two first-timers on tonight. Gives us something to look forward to tonight. So looking forward to that. We're looking at having Sarah Cornett G making her, I want to say, third or fourth return to the show. Love having her on the show. We're looking like we're going to have her and Dylan Lumpton joining us Friday night. So very excited about all the great guests that we get the opportunity to have on the 110 Nation. I don't know, I'm very excited about everything, I guess. But on top of that, I got a message from Steve Billmeyer, the host of Racing with Big Sweat. Yes, Big Sweat himself. To let me know that Racing with Big Sweat will be making its return 2 weeks from tomorrow. He was wanting to come back. He was wanting to make a return. It was already too late and couldn't get things lined up. And then he was wanting to make a return next week, but it was to be in the 125 qualifiers. He figured it was in his best interest to hold off for another week. So we got him returning to the network Thursday, February 25th. So very, very excited about having Big Sweat back on the schedule here and having him on Thursday night. So very, very excited about that. Looking forward to having Big Sweat back and having him back on the schedule. And for those that are unfamiliar with what goes on here, Monday through Friday we have the 110 Nation Sports Show. With the return of Big Sweat, we're going to make some adjustments there. We got Racing with Big Sweat Thursday nights. All starts at 9 p.m. And, of course, we got the Happy Hour Garage joining us at 7 o'clock on Sunday nights. And then we finish up Sunday nights with the Dirt Talk Hour at 9 p.m., of course, all time Eastern Standard Time. So very, very fortunate to have a whole slew full of shows. We also got Rubbin's Racing. Will be making its return Monday night, 7 p.m. was the previous time. I will let you guys know tomorrow, but I think we're going to continue with the 7 o'clock time slot there for Rubbin's Racing. Looking forward to being back on talking, spending an hour talking just strictly NASCAR. So can't wait for that as well. So got a lot of things going on here at the 110 Nation. So very, 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 as you can tell, I'm just but still very excited as well. And I think that I need to look into the what is that? Not the glossary, but what word am I looking for? The source, where I come up with words that mean the same as excited, but use other words instead of just using one word all the time. I'm sure I'm going to get a message or an email from Miss Lee here in a little while that I need to get off the word excited. She does a good job of keeping me in check. Can't complain at all. Without her, I don't know where we would be and what would we be having going on this show. So, you know, it's great to have her, and like I said, I expect a message at some point tonight that use some other word other than excited. Oh my goodness, run a little bit behind. Gotta love that. Between work and having to get something in the old tummy before I got on the air, being how I hadn't ate all day since like 12 o'clock, and that was a very minimum that I did eat. I had to make sure that I got something down before we jumped into this. If not, it was probably not going to be a fun time for me. And might not even been a fun time for anybody else. So I had to make sure that I took care of that before we got on the air. Just didn't really miss nothing other than me just jabbing and jacking my jaws about a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I guess it was all really for the best. Hey, missing out on a really good game right now, and Cleveland and the Lakers, as Kobe Bryant is making his final appearance at the Quicken Loans Arena. Made it through the first. Got it recorded, got it paused, so I will pick back up on the game soon as we are done with the show. That is a must for my Cleveland Cavaliers. We know that we don't miss too many games that are televised here, so very, very eager. I'm not going to use the word excited. Very eager to be able to catch that after the show. It was just really cool to watch the respect and the respect from the fans, respect from players, just all around, all the respect. It's just phenomenal to see that, and that's why when I talked about I'm actually going to sit down for the first time in 25 years to watch the All-Star game and explain that I'm doing this because I want to be able to see the reactions. I want to be able to see the respect. They just want to say if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be sitting down watching the All-Star game. I'd went 25 years without watching it, so it's not something that is a must for me. And so I'm glad that I'm gonna have an opportunity to sit down. Well, I'm hoping to have an opportunity to sit down. We'll see if Shorty has anything to say about that. Kind of waiting to see what her schedule is like for Sunday, so I get an idea of whether or not it's going to be me sitting down watching the live or me DVRing it. Either way, by Monday morning, I will have sat down and watched. I will have sat down and watched the All-Star game. Like I said, I can't wait. It's funny because I have never been a Kobe fan. Like, I can respect what he's done for the game. I can respect how good he was at the game. But to say I ever liked Kobe or to say that I was ever a Kobe fan, I couldn't say that. I have never been a Lakers fan. I was a Shaq fan. I used to have a Shaq jersey back in the day. You have no idea how excited I was when Shaq made his way to Cleveland, even though it was ended up being a whole bust situation and didn't really help us none. It probably really more hurt the organization than anything. I have a lot of respect for Magic Johnson and all the all-time greats that played for that organization, but I have never been a Laker fan, and never none of these teams with big historic backgrounds, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Knicks. I'm just the Sixers. I've never been fans of them. I have strictly just been a Cleveland fan, and I can still have respect and appreciation for what all the greats did, but at the same time, I don't ever have to actually be a fan of a fan of these teams or even the players for that matter, but. For some reason, I watched Kobe play as I was growing up, and his whole situation with his cheating on his wife, and everything that how he conducted himself, how he played. I'm not gonna say how he played the game, but how he was just this villain. I just never was a Kobe fan because of it. And obviously, if you're a Laker fan, you love them. But if you was really a fan of any other team, you just didn't care for Kobe Bryant. And to go from that to sitting there and actually wanting to watch him play and going out of my way to make sure that, if the Laker game is on national TV and I can catch it down here in North Carolina, I'm going to watch it, or I'm going to DVR so I can sit there and watch it. And to find myself, I'm watching the first quarter of this game, and, especially the first half of the quarter, there's really, no motivation on either team. It's more of, okay, we're having fun. Kobe Bryant's out there. This is his last time here at the Quicken Loans Arena. We're having fun. We're and it didn't take till it got to be about halfway into the quarter that things really got serious, and the teams actually looked like they were starting to play, but it was such a slow motion, and I was like, wow, this is not what I signed up to watch. And as much as I'm loving the whole Kobe Bryant thing, I'm not sitting there and wanting to watch, that I might as well be watching the All-Star game right now. Or I'm kind of remind me like the Pro Bowl. There was just really no effort. People were just getting dunks and wide open opportunities, and there was just really no into the game. And it started picking up, and I can't wait to see the last three quarters. But it's just weird to know that I spent most of his 19-year career not liking him and not ever wanting to watch him and cheering and rooting against him, to now I'm trying to find every opportunity to be able to watch him and appreciate everything that he has done for this sport. And it just really a really cool feeling. Like I said, and I got to get our guest on here. Like I said, I've not watched the All-Star game in 25 years. And to know that I'll be able to sit down this Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on, at the end of Valentine's Day, more than likely, since she works until 8, 9 o'clock, and more than likely because we'll have kids, we'll probably sit and watch the game together. But to know that, I already know that when I turn that on and I see, and I know without a doubt that they're going to have interviews with all the All-Star players, and talking about Kobe's, what he's meant to them, or meant to, what his game has meant to their game, or what it means to be in the last All-Star that Kobe Bryant's going to play, and something to that matter. And I'm sure it's going to be, a minute or 2 minute long clip of almost all the players. At some point, we're going to see that. To know we're going to see that, and to see the crowd's reaction, and watching the Cleveland and Lakers game, and watching him hug, Coach Lou and all the other players on Cleveland, and the amount of respect that you got to see just in the Cleveland and Lakers game. I'm expecting to see that 10 times. I would not be surprised if it takes an extra 10 minutes or so for the All-Star game to start. By the time he gets done, hugging everybody and everybody getting their opportunity to say something to Kobe Bryant. And then to watch how they will respect him while they're playing the All-Star game. I mean, it's an All-Star game. Hey, nobody. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some opportunities to do some incredible things, dunks or whatever, and no hands be laid on him kind of scenario. I mean, really, it's the All-Star game. And then to watch, and I can almost guarantee, I'm going to guarantee you, as that game is finishing up, that stadium is going to be rocking, and you're going to hear Kobe, Kobe, Kobe. And when it's all said and done, I can only imagine how loud it's going to be as the fans cheer his last All-Star game. I already know. Just knowing all this, I'm going to have chills. The hair on my arms are going to be standing straight up. I already know this. And for someone such as myself that was not a Kobe fan, for someone as such as myself that to never wanted to ever see Kobe win a championship, to be someone that had a lot of bad opinions, especially when the whole shenanigans went down with him and his mistress in Colorado and all that stuff. to know that I go from that to knowing that I'm going to sit there with chills and absolutely, positively love the opportunity to be sitting there watching Kobe Bryant in his last game, All-Star game. And I mean, honestly, we're getting down to the last 30 games or so. I mean, we're getting down to the bare minimum here anyway. But to know that I am witnessing the last time one of the greatest players in my generation, easily top 10, easily, probably even top 5. And you know, I don't like to this is the best player of all time, or this player is better than this player. I don't like getting, especially the whole Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James arguments, because the NBA was different when Michael Jordan was in. The league was different when Kobe Bryant was in. The league is different now with LeBron James being the king of the NBA. And the way Steph Curry is playing right now, that's even still debatable at this point now. I'm sorry, but the whole hack-a-shack didn't start until Kobe's generation, but more towards LeBron. The whole flopping thing was more of the later part of Kobe Bryant to LeBron James's era. The clear path foul. A lot of things have changed over the years, even from when Kobe Bryant was in his prime to now that LeBron's in his prime. And then we can backtrack to the days of Michael Jordan. And I'm sorry, but I honestly feel that the talent level was much higher in Michael Jordan's day. Therefore, it was harder, in my opinion, to do what they accomplished in Chicago when Michael Jordan was playing versus the talent now. I'm sorry, but you put the talent in Michael Jordan's prime time, mid-'90s, you put that talent against the best of the talent now, I guarantee you 9 out of 10 times that talent in the day would beat any scenario of talent you would put together, outside of maybe now that you got Steph Curry being the way he is. But I think if you could find a point guard or two that could go toe-to-toe and help spread the team of the mid-'90s versus the team of now, I think 9 out of 10 times we would find our way. The mid-'90s team would find their way into being victorious. So I don't even like getting into that whole Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and even we can go back to Dr. J and Kareem and, you know, everybody else that you want to throw into the argument that who you feel is the best of all time. I don't like getting into that argument. Just like there's a whole quarterback talking about best quarterback of all time. I don't like getting into that argument because, prime example, Dan Marino held the most passing yards in a single season record for like 20 years until the rules started changing to become a pass-happy league. Quarterbacks got overprotected. Wide receivers now get protected. So it's easier to rack up a bunch of yards because you can hardly touch a quarterback without catching a penalty, and you got to let a receiver catch the ball and take a couple steps before you catch. They're deemed defenseless. So I don't like getting into those whole arguments because to me they're quite meaningless when it comes to those arguments. Just because of the rule changes, the talent level changes, all the different scenarios that play out. So I just, but to know that I am actually that I am that excited, that eager to be able to sit down and watch Kobe Bryant. Yes, Kobe Bryant, not LeBron James, not not any of the Cleveland greats, not the Cleveland Cavaliers themselves, down and watch Kobe Bryant play in his final All-Star game. And that's even more remarkable to me, how excited I am to watch Kobe Bryant in an All-Star game, something that I have not watched in 25 years. And honestly, I thought that I would never have any thoughts or plans of ever sitting down and watching. I'm sorry, the All-Star game just does nothing for me. The Pro Bowl game, the All-Star game, neither one of them really have, really don't do anything for me at all. They just absolutely don't. You know, the MLB, NHL, and NASCAR, yes, they have done a phenomenal job of giving us a reason to want to tune in. They have given us a reason to want to tune in, watch, because there's a purpose in the game. But the All-Star game, the Pro Bowl, no purpose at all. Both organizations need to work on, but with no purpose, and knowing that I am eager not only am I wanting to watch it, I'm eager to watch a All-Star game. That is crazy to me to even think you have that silly thought go through my head. It's actually kind of funny to me, but that's just got me. I don't go out of my way a lot of times to watch certain things because of the lack of entertainment, and to know that here we are, All-Star time, and I'm 100% truly, honestly excited about the opportunity to sit down and watch him in his final game. I just don't know quite how to act with that. Oh, Lord have mercy. Kind of honestly still lost for words on that. Don't forget, we got Sarah Cornett-Ching and Dylan Lupton joining us Friday night. They'll be making their way into the studio at 9:30. Sarah will. Dylan will be making his way into the studio at 10 o'clock. Also, don't forget, Monday, we have Tim Lathan. We have Tim Lathan joining us. He is the guy that put together the Seek to Destroy Cancer event, and it happens to be in the town that I live in, or technically I live in the next town over, but basically the same town. The only thing that separates us is Fort Bragg. Probably take me about 10, 15 minutes to get there. But they had to be throwing it in the same town I live in. They got a bunch of different wrestlers from different organizations, former WWE, former WCW, and current wrestlers, and just different I guess, companies, I guess is the word I could use. They all come together to raise money to help Seek and Destroy Cancer. And we will be having him come on about 9:10 on Monday to talk about the event, to talk about the wrestlers, to talk about everything that goes on when putting this whole charity thing together. And he's supposed to be having some of the guest wrestlers joining him as well. So we're expecting to have a fun time with that Monday night. Definitely looking forward to that. So make sure you guys tune into that. That way, you guys also, for those that want to contribute to help destroy cancer, you can find out ways to help support. Also, we're working on getting Tommy Danger back on the show. He is the great guy that I met at Bristol Motor Speedway a couple years ago. He was the PR for for 3M, a sponsor for the Greg Biffle machine. And he ended up walking away from that and creating probably one of the greatest organizations we've been lucky to be affiliated with and help sponsor and have them on the show. More than just me. You can check them out at mtjm.org. And what they do is they raise money for cystic fibrosis. And Tommy he's done the 3,200 miles or whatever it is from coast to coast. He ran something like 20 miles a day. He's climbed 4 of the 7 summits of the world to raise money for cystic fibrosis. They have a lot of different events, and they got more than just coats, and they collect coats for those that need coats. They got more than just art, or I want to say more than just art, where they, took art donations and let people make stuff and everything else to raise money for cystic fibrosis. Well, they got it more than just miles. One of their first events. And they did this. They started this 2 years ago. This is going to be the 3rd annual. And the first day we were involved. We helped be one of the primary sponsors of the event to help get the thing kicked off. Last year, it was more of, the only reason we didn't get involved was more of a timing issue. We just happened to not get emails back and forth like we should have. And that was really my fault at my end. And we got the email earlier in the year, and now that tax time has come, and we set aside the charity money that we're doing right now. We went ahead and made it possible that we'll be able to be involved with that as well. I got messages coming everywhere, and so looking forward to April 16th is their actual event down in Florida. We'll get Tommy Danger back on. We're also going to be tonight, well, actually tomorrow, I will be putting updates on Facebook about both the events. I would say tonight, but I know once I get off here, I'm going to go get in the shower because I got home just in time to eat something real quick and get on the air. But tomorrow morning, and once I get getting done with a shower, it's Cleveland Cavaliers and Lakers. As a matter of fact, I'm not even looking at anything right now. I'm trying to shoot everything from the hip because I'm the type that if I know the score, I am not going to watch the game. And I want to watch this game. I want to not know I don't want to know what the score is because I want to watch this game and I want to watch it as a surprise. And I just, if I know that this is a blowout game, it really will detour me from wanting to watch the game. And if I know the score and I already know who won, it will make it hard. Like I can't even really do anything on Facebook because I don't want to know any updates. I don't want to know any scoring. I don't want to know anything. So I'm shooting everything from the hip when I'm talking about right now, and trying to make sure that I avoid the Cleveland Cavaliers and Lakers updates if possible. As a matter of fact, I originally posted, how on Facebook now you could put the that you're watching the game and it keeps the score updated. I accidentally did that, and I hadn't got that far in the game. I was still early in the game, and then I ended up seeing the 18. As we were supposed to have Cole on at 9:30, and now we're about to run into issues because there was a miscommunication at I don't know which end. And it looks like there was miscommunication, and now we're trying to figure out if we're going to do the second interview first, and then the first interview second. Do the first interview on another night. I'm trying to work all this out. It is now everything's coming at one time, but and tell you what, this is one of those great moments while being live on the air, and never know what's going on in the. I'm just really hitting all the wrong buttons here. And never know what's going to happen in the middle of the show. So bear with me as we get ready to jump into. But anyway, let's continue on as we get prepared for our next guest. As I tell you what, while I'm getting prepared for our next guest to get the studio and find out exactly what we're doing here. Like I said, there was, I guess, a big miscommunication on how this was supposed to be done tonight. So I'm waiting for Miss Lee to get this all situated, how we're doing this and who we're talking to and everything else, and what order we're doing this. It was funny today because I got the opportunity. We had this opportunity at work to talk. And, of course, we got to talking about bandwagon fans, and yes, we're still talking about Carolina, and how remarkable it is that, I've been now back to work for we've had 3 full days since the Super Bowl. And I even had customers talking to me today, talking about how the fact that, this year was the first year that they even seen Carolina Panther stuff in the Walmart in our town. And, we're about an hour and a half from Charlotte. So, we're not that far from Charlotte. And, we're right here on top of Fort Bragg. So, but to see that all of a sudden you got Carolina stuff everywhere. You got Carolina fans out of the woodworks leading up to include Sunday. And then here we are 3 days removed from the Super Bowl, and I've seen a total of two people. And we got in this conversation. I was talking to a Redskins fan. I was talking to actually 2 Redskins fans. And of course I'm a Browns fan. And, we talked about how humorous it is that once they lost, the love was gone. Here, I got a Redskin fan with a Redskin hat on. I got another Redskin fan. He had something else Redskins on. I forgot what he had. That was the only reason I even knew he was a Redskins fan. And then, of course, every given opportunity that I'm off, I wear Cleveland stuff. I've had 3. The Browns have had 3 winning seasons since 1990. Three seasons above 500. And yet, I religiously wear my colors. I am proud of my organization. And I am proud to be cheering on my team. Yet, you got these so-called Carolina fans that once they lost, once they took that 24-10 beat down by that Denver Broncos defense, once they watched their quarterback throw himself to the floor and throw a little temper tantrum, they put all that stuff back in the closet, underneath the bed. I don't know where they hid it all. And it absolutely, positively blows my mind. Like, you can't imagine. Like I'm seeing cars on a daily basis with Carolina Panther license plates on it, or the little flags you put in the windows, or decals in their windows, or keychains with Carolina Panthers on it, or hats, or whatever the case may be. The vehicle's all decorated up. Here we are 3 days removed, and I've not seen any of that. I have seen two customers. One of them was one of the two people that I actually seen in Carolina stuff, and he had his license plate still in the front of his car, and there's one other customer that actually had a plate in his second car, but he's been driving another one lately, so he just happened to come by today. But only seeing two people in actual Carolina stuff, and it was 3 days ago, blah, blah, blah. You still got to support your team, regardless if they win or lose. But prime example, Duke just got back into the top 25. I still Duke stuff everywhere. Horrible season this year. Nowhere close to what the Panthers have done. UNC got number 2, lost twice this last week. And yet there's UNC stuff everywhere. And here we are, the lonely Panthers. It goes 17-1 before they lose their next game. And 3 days after the Super Bowl, out of all things, there's not a Panther. There's 2 Panthers to be found in 3 days. Absolutely, positively mind-boggling to me how that works. I've never seen such lack of support and such a group of bandwagon fans outside of Seattle Seahawks fans in my life. Like, it just really blows my mind how little respect these so-called fans have towards the organization that they supposedly love. And it blows my mind. Like, I don't get it. Brian Vickers was announced today to be the replacement driver for Tony Stewart. With Tony Stewart, obviously with the injury that he has suffered, with the back injury, with the ATV event or the ATV accident that he had. Interesting choice. A lot of people didn't even think about the name. I don't know if a lot of people, because we've gotten so used to seeing him on TV at this point, we just assumed that maybe he was no longer racing, or just because, we've assumed that, the medical conditions that he has with the blog, I think he had blood issue or heart issue or blocked arteries or whatever the case was. I don't think a lot of people just assume that. I guess a lot of people just assume that name was off the list of drivers. But confirmed Brian Vickers to replace injured Tony Stewart at Daytona. Tony Stewart's replacement at Daytona International Speedway will be someone that virtually no one expected, and nobody. Fox Sports' Tom Jensen has confirmed that Brian Vickers will drive the number 14 Stewart-Haas Racing Chevrolet throughout Speed Week. And to be 100% honest with you, I love this move. I'm not going to say I'm a Brian Vickers fan, but I am a fan of Brian Vickers. I cheered for him back when he drove the 25 Chevrolet for Stewart-Haas. I kept up with him when he was over at BK Racing. It's just BK Racing is BK Racing. And then, I was pulling for him when he was driving for Michael Waltrip Racing, hoping that, big things would happen there. So Ty Dillon will also drive the number 14 at some point. FoxSports.com has learned. Stewart-Haas Racing announced Wednesday morning that the organization will formally announce the identity of Stewart's Daytona substitute during an 11:30 a.m. News conference Friday at the track sideline after a reoccurrence of blood clots last March. Vickers competed in just 2 races before going off the grid due to medical issues and of the fairly serious nature for the 4th time in his career. Vickers 32 blood clots in 2010 while driving for a now dysfunction Red Bull Racing. I'm sorry, not BK Racing. He competed in only the first 11 races that year. 3 years later, the Thomasville, North Carolina native missed the final 4 races of the season with blood clots in his calf and missed the first 2 races of this year he missed the first 2 races of this year while he recovered from off-season heart surgery. Last January, doctors cleared Vickers to race again, only requiring that he must sit out the season-opening Daytona 500 and the following weekend's event at Atlanta Motor Speedway. After Vickers returned to the seat of the number 55 Michael Waltrip Racing Toyota for the races at Las Vegas and Phoenix, MWR announced on the Friday of the Auto Club Speedway race weekend that Vickers' blood clots had returned and the driver was taking a blood-thinning medication to treat his clots and wouldn't be allowed to race while taking the thinners. 2 days later, Vickers told reporters at ACS that he would miss at least 3 months, and it was later announced that David Reagan would be in the number 55 for the rest of the 2015 season, and of course, the rest is history at that point. I like that. I like that substitute. Honestly, I wish that with the seriousness injuries for Tony Stewart, and now that you know that he's going to miss a good portion of the season, I wish that they would find one single driver and say, I wish they would go ahead and just make it one driver. I wish that Brian Vickers, if he medically was cleared and able to do it, I wish they would make it so there's a possibility that we could see that number 14 in the chase. And I know that Tony Stewart's not technically supposed to be retired yet, and he's supposed to run this season, and he plans on running at some point this season to finish out his finale. I honestly, the way he performed last year, the way that, he's not been the same since the Kevin Ward Jr. stuff, and, now this injury, I as much as I don't want to see Tony Stewart go out like this, honestly, for the organization, for the sponsors and everything, I think that this might be the best thing best scenario to play out is try to put a driver in that can run every race up until that point and then make that decision when you feel you're ready, okay? This is where we're at in the points. We have an opportunity to put this car, the 14, in the chase, or we're not performing to the level that's needed to put the 14 in the chase. I want to go ahead and finish the rest of the season out, go ahead and do my farewell tour. That's really what should happen versus already planning on having multiple drivers, not giving yourself an opportunity to be in the chase. And that's all that matters. That's what we're chasing. It is the sprint for the chase for the Sprint Cup Championship, and you're kind of eliminating yourself. And we got a guest coming in here in the studio, so I'm going to jump off this topic of conversation. But I want y'all to think about this for a second. For all those, especially Stewart fans, and I'm just picking you because it's a Tony Stewart situation, but there was a lot of fans out there that had a real big issue with Kyle Busch being granted the opportunity to be in the chase when he missed a good portion of 9 races or whatever it was, but he had to finish with a win and in the top 30, which he crushed that with 4 wins and was well within the top 30. What happens? And I want you all to think about this while we talk to our 2 guests. We're going to get back on this after we get done with our guests. What happens if Tony Stewart comes back, misses at least 9 to 10 races, at least, comes back, wins a race or 2, puts himself in the top 30? I want to know what the opinions are going to be like because it's Tony Stewart, not Kyle Busch. That is something to think about. But while you guys think about that, we got our first of 2 guests joining us. I think this is Cole, as everything got jumbled up a little bit here. So let me go ahead and put our first guest on here, and let's run with this. Guest, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Is this Cole?
No, this is BJ McLeod.
Okay. Well, then I was wrong. You got it. And it was McLeod?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I definitely got it wrong. I was trying my best to pronounce it the way it was spelled and not the way that I don't know. I try. That's why I hate trying to pronounce names, and I know I messed them up so bad, and Miss Lee's probably going to...
No, it's okay.
It's
not spelled nothing like it sounds. I totally understand.
Before we jump into this, I want to do what I do with everybody. I want to give you an opportunity to plug yourself. If it be social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, team site, personal sites, sponsors, whatever you want to throw out there. That way the listeners get an opportunity to know you on a more personal level and be able to follow you throughout the season and your career.
Gotcha. Well, obviously my name is BJ McLeod. I'm a racer since I was 3 years old. Raced everything, four-wheelers, go-karts, super late models, NASCAR. Been here for 5 years now, and really looking forward to the opportunity this year. We're going to run full Xfinity in the 78 car, and we actually have Batteries Plus coming on board for the first two races. So really, really looking forward to that partnership and seeing where we can take it from there. And looks like, they're going to help us out. And we're going to go down to Daytona and have some fun, man. So just really looking forward to this year coming up. We've got another associate sponsor, Extreme pH Water, Sports Water. They're helping us out. So starting out good to be, have two people helping us out before we even get to Daytona. So really looking forward to it, and actually doing it with my own team. So we've actually got two cars we're going to run full time, and we've got Chris Fontaine driving the second car at Daytona, and then we still have to figure out our drivers for the rest of the year. But we just looking forward to the year, man. Can't wait.
Team owner driver, how stressful is that? We had Mason Mitchell on, and he kind of does the same thing with the ARCA series, but now things get a little more complicated when you're in the Xfinity series, and the money's a little bit. I'm not gonna say a little bit. It's a lot more expensive to have these cars out there. Of course, the sponsorship takes a lot more, and the talent is stepped up a couple more levels. How stressful is it to be a team owner / driver in the Xfinity series?
Well, I've been working for myself since I was 19 years old. I've owned different businesses, and that was kind of what started the Batteries Plus deal. Is I'm an entrepreneur, and everybody that owns their franchises are the same thing. So they kind of related to that, and it's to understand the stress of it. I've had to make a living in construction. I've actually, when I was really young, changed microjets and orange groves and dug ditches and done all kinds of stuff. So when you say the stress level of being an owner and a driver in the Xfinity series, when you come from nothing where I started and to be where I'm at now, I don't let the stress get to me. You're right. There is a ton of things that you have to take care of. Fortunately, I have good people that help me, and they take care of the shop stuff, and I just have to network and build my relationships and make sure I take care of the people that got me here. And it's not honestly that hard when you look at the way I've made a living for most of my life. It's just you are correct, though. There is definitely some stress, but I just wake up every day and I'm super thankful that I get to go to my race car shop and look at my race cars and say, you know what, whatever problems come with the day, we're going to make them work, and we'll just make the best of it. So I enjoy every day I get up, and honestly, I don't feel any stress, but, I understand where you can definitely see from the outside looking in that there could be some.
Now, you said you were driving since you was 3, and now here you are as an owner. At what point, what made you decide not only do you want to continue driving, but you no longer want to drive for someone else. You want to drive for yourself, and you want to build a race team such as Joe Gibbs Racing or Penske or whatever, to be the premier team to be driving for. What went through your mind to make you make that decision, and how hard of a decision was that for you to make for yourself?
Well, I would say what put me in that direction is I love owning. I've always been in business for myself, and I got to the level with NASCAR to where I could make a living owning my own business and racing, and that's what started it. It wasn't necessarily me wanting to own my own race car that I drive. I've drove for, one of my favorite people I've drove for is Bobby Dotter, and then, Mike Hillman Sr., and it's just, that was some of the funnest races and times I've ever had. And it was never because I didn't enjoy driving for other people. It was just I love business, and I wanted to have my own racing business. And it just turned out that the best opportunity for me driving this year was driving my own stuff. I actually definitely in the future would consider driving for other people and then putting somebody else in my car at my shop. So it was just a decision that was made to make sure I could get seat time and take care of the sponsors and stuff that we have, and try to build my racing career as a driver too, to be able to move on in the future.
And it's funny because I said this last night. I hate trying to compare the two because having a race team is completely different than what I have going on. But I completely understand. I would much rather do this for myself than do it for someone else. It's just a certain feel of accomplishment, and there are just certain things that responsibility and things that you want and you feel that need to go a certain way, and you don't necessarily happen when you do it for someone else. And it's always a challenge to see, can I do it? And, do I have all the pieces that, to make this be successful? You said you've been doing this for 3 years old, so are you another one of those drivers that started off in the go-karts?
My dad started me, or mom and dad actually started me in gas-powered four-wheelers that actually had a foot lever you had to shift. They were 70cc four-wheelers, and I raced on a flat dirt track under 3 years of age, green to checkered. And, obviously then you're all just riding around. Whoever actually finishes is probably the winner. But, it got more serious at age 5. And at age 5, I switched over to go-karts also. And, I was winning races at age 5, and I won somewhere around 300 races from age 5 to 12. And I think it was like 17 or 18 championships with 1 national and 9 state from, in that 7-year period. And I was always a big kid. Like right now I'm 6'1", 225. I work out 5-6 days a week, and I'm always liked doing that. But when I was, 10 years old, I was 185 pounds and 5'5". So, I was always big. So the go-karts, I couldn't be competitive. Like 11, 12 years old, I struggled with weight on the weight classes. And that's when my dad started thinking he was going to switch me to super late models. And it actually took him a while to get the insurance and get the tracks to say okay to it. And my first race in a super late model was at Orlando Speed World in Orlando, Florida. And Robert Hart owned the track. Clyde Hart actually was still running it then. And Tammy Bratchard, they watched me and, said that I was okay to drive. And that's how I got to run my first super late race when I was 13 years old. So it just kind of took off from there. And Dad ended up getting me approved to run an ASA back when they ran the 6 cylinders. I was racing with Mike Eddy and Bob Seneker and, those guys, and ran my first race there when I was 13 also. So we did that stuff and ran a couple of Hooters races, and then mostly super late models because I just love super late models the way they raced, and, that was what we could afford to do and do it right. And we won over 100 races doing that, and I think we ended up with 4 or 5 championships in super lates. And then I won the World Series of Asphalt at New Smyrna Speedway in 2010, driving for Chris Long at Boggy Creek Airboat Rides. And, sitting in the winner's circle, I was taking pictures for the championship deal. And I was like, you know what, I'm 26 years old. If I don't go to NASCAR now, I'm never going to have a chance. So I told Chris, which owned, Boggy Creek Airboat Rides, him and his wife Margie, I told him, I was like, I don't care if we can't run but one race this year. Let's take all the money we would have done super late models with and let's run one truck race. So he's like, fine, whatever you want to do. So I actually come to North Carolina and met with Mike Hillman Sr. when he was still at Germain's that year. It was the year that Todd Bodine won the championship in 2010. And Senior, seeing how bad I wanted it, and he's like, you'll help build your truck and you'll come up here and work for free for 7 or 8 months and, really put your head to it, then we'll help you out. So it ended up that the entire Hillman family helped me out tremendously. The Germain family helped me out, let me be there and, do that stuff. And then everybody, all the employees of the 2010 season at Germain Racing were really good to me. And we built our first truck that year. Actually, Chris owned it. And we went to Martinsville and finished 17th, lead lap. And, was really happy with that. I was just trying to get seat time. And, from then on, I was addicted. All I wanted to do was race NASCAR. So I've ran 2 or 3, 4 or 5 super late model races a year since then, but I've focused on NASCAR, and we're somewhere around 45 starts now since 2010. So.
It always amazes me, and I obviously I don't remember back when I was 2, 3 years old. I don't know. I don't know how many people actually do, and obviously there's a lot of people that do. But I know how my son is, even at 9 years old. I know the girl that I call my daughter that I raised for 15 years. I know how she was when she was little, and hell, I know how she is at 17 years old. She still runs into walls and everything else. And then, of course, in the current relationship I'm in, I've known her kids since they were 3 and 4. And it blows my mind to know that there's kids out there at that age that are in go-karts and 4-wheels and everything else. When I have personally helped raise 4 kids that I guarantee you if I put money on it, 3 out of 4 of them are going to trip on something from one end of the house to the other end of the house. And I sure would not put them behind the wheel of anything. So it really amazes me that there's such a population of young kids out there that manage to be able to get behind the wheel of something and be able to drive without causing a whole bunch of havoc. It really amazes me. What's 2016? You're talking 2 full rides. You're obviously in one of them, and then there's going to be other drivers in the second one. How did all this come together for 2016, and what are the goals over there this year? I mean, obviously winning races and winning championships are 1 and 2, but outside of that, what are some goals that you have set for your team? If it be, not wrecking a car or, top 10s, top 15s, a certain spot in points, what realistic? I'm not gonna say that winning the championship and winning the race is not realistic, but those are everybody's dream goals. But a goal a little bit farther down on the list, maybe 3rd, 4th, and 5th in that ballpark figure. What kind of goals do you guys have set for yourself this year?
Well, the way it all come about was Bobby Daughter actually had me go do a race for him in Iowa with the Xfinity car, and I had never drove Xfinity before. This was, I think it was a May race, I want to think. And the first time I drove that Xfinity car, I was like, wow, this is awesome. So that's when it sparked me, because I owned my own truck team last year too. And I was, looking at everything, and I was like, I want to do Xfinity. So I started kind of planning towards doing that mid-year last year, and I started working on trying to get some people to help me. And fortunately, I had a couple people that stepped up to the plate and helped me get, the relationship I have with Roush now, and I was able to get 14 cars total that are all Roush Fenway cars. 5 or 6 of them are pretty current, last year's cars, and then others are road course winners and just, super speedway cars, things like that. So once we knew we were able to get that kind of equipment, and we actually acquired the points from the 16 car from last year, so we knew we had a guaranteed number, and that's what set the tone for having one full-time car. And then when I was doing it, I just thought, because we're a new team and we're trying to build everything, and, these guys, it's an absolute dream of mine just to be in Xfinity as a driver or an owner, let alone both. So this stuff is huge to me. You got to remember, I come from a small town, 20,000 people, Wauchula, Florida. Just, it's unbelievable to be here. So, in all reality, knowing that we've got to build this team and make it better, I did the right thing by buying nice cars only because I had good people to help me and some good relationships that they made it possible. But having those cars is only one piece of the puzzle, and I wanted to start the second team to help us with R&D, and either if somebody that's funded correctly, because I'm on a lower budget right now. The 2 races that Battery Plus has helped us with, we're in good shape. They've really come on board and helped us, but we're going to have to secure some help either from them or somebody else for the rest of the year to be able to try to run good with my car. And by saying good, top 15 is what I'm thinking, if we can get some real help, for the rest of the year. So I wanted to have that second car. So Chris Fontaine, he has sponsorship, and he's, got the best engine, and he's got a race-winning car. And, I mean, he literally can go down to Daytona and run he can run top 15 easy if he don't get caught up in a wreck. So that's why that second car is there. It's either going to be the main car if it's funded correctly, or if I'm funded correctly, I'll have the main car and the second car will be R&D, because we need to learn. It's a new team, and thankfully I've got a lot of relationships up here that people – that's the only reason I'm here. I'm the smallest part. The reason I'm here is because of people I know and the way they've been willing to help me, and it's unbelievable the support I've had in this community. And that's one thing that's cool about NASCAR is, we get on a racetrack and it's, you're out there for yourself, but the second you get back to Mooresville, it's like everybody's together. So, you do have some support. And don't be wrong, there's some stuff that you aren't told and that gets kept from you, but that's only expected when you're in a deal as big as this. So I'm, because of the relationships we have, we've been able to get the right cars and get everything in the shop and get the right people to help us out and get started. And I wanted the 2 cars, so it's double the track time, it's double the practice, because as you know, you're only limited to 2 practice sessions if you're a rookie, and I'm not a rookie anymore because I ran 12 races last year. So the only practice we get is at the track. So we've kind of doubled our R&D having the 2 cars, and that's our plans for this year, is to learn and do as best we can. I would say realistic goals for us this year is set up 2017 and try to run top 15 next year. This year we may get some top 15s, but I just want to learn. I'm going to be here. I plan on my team being here for the next 10, 15 years. I'm going to be here for the same amount at least, and I'm not in a hurry to try and do anything. If Batteries Plus comes on for the rest of the year, then don't get me wrong, we're going for it. And we're going for it at Daytona, we're going for it at Atlanta. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just saying, like you're saying, if you look at it realistically, we're in a shark tank, and we're doing the best we can to get green to checkered and hang with these guys. So we're just going to work hard and do our best, and whatever our best is this year, we're going to make that best better next year. So that's my answer.
Now, obviously, your answer might be a little bit different than some of the fans and maybe some of the other teams out there, because you got some of the cars from Roush Fenway, and obviously them being in the Xfinity Series, made that possible. But I'm going to ask you anyway, because you might surprise me. Your answer might be a little bit different. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are sitting on the fence, whether or not they enjoy having the Cup guys with the Xfinity Series and letting them do double duty. I'm not a big fan of it because I want to see what the talent is. Watching, as much as I don't care to watch, I kind of worded that wrong. I like Kyle Busch. So as much as it is, as many Xfinity Series we've had to watch him win, it doesn't necessarily bother me, other than outside of we don't truly get to see the other talent. When we're constantly seeing Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski out front, or some of the other guys that, every once in a while will dip into double duty, it seems, because they're the highly funded, highly sponsored, get the best equipment, they seem to be out there out front on a constant basis. And to me, it kind of hurts things. I know that they're there to bring fans in, and it also gives you guys an opportunity to know what it's like to race against the next level of competition. But at the same time, it takes away from your guys' TV time. It makes it where you guys are not finishing higher positions sometimes, where you could get that paycheck a little bit better. What are your as a driver? What are your thoughts about the double duty situation? And then as an owner, do you have different thoughts of that?
Well, as a driver, I understand your opinion on it, and I totally get that. As a driver, I want to be on the track with the best every week. There's not any part of me that does not like Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick or Brad Keselowski or, whoever it may be that week, Joey Logano. I like the fact that they come back to Xfinity and they show their love for the sport, and they race on Saturday when they could be sitting in their motorhome, in the AC, not doing anything and just waiting for Sunday. They're going to make a living either way. I respect those guys because they all have made it. They've all got a living made. And guess what? They still get out there on Saturday, and Kyle's not going to let Brad beat him. Brad's not going to let Joey beat him. Like, they're all wide open and after it. And that's what makes our sport. Like, it's those guys being that driven, and that after a win, whether it's in a golf cart outside the track or whether it's in an Xfinity car on the track. They just want to win. They don't care what they're in. So I think that it's good that they're there, and I enjoy it as a driver. As an owner, it makes it more difficult to be able to – it's hard because no matter what, whether you've got Kyle Busch driving a Joe Gibbs car or you've got I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, Matt Tifft, he's one of my formal drivers that are going to be driving for Joe Gibbs this year some. I honestly believe Matt's going to win. He's running 13 races. I'll be surprised if he doesn't win 3 of them, okay? And no matter what, that Joe Gibbs car is going to be up front because Joe Gibbs is awesome. His team is incredible. Same thing with Penske, same thing with RCR, any of those guys. And I agree with you in saying that Kyle not being there opens up a seat for Matt to be able to show his talent and us get to see a new thing. So I understand your opinion, and as an owner, I somewhat agree with you. I still, even as an owner, it's hard for me to separate the thoughts. I love the fact that, you know, Kyle Busch and Joey and all those guys are willing to come back and run on Saturday just for a win because it's literally, that's the reason they do it, and I enjoy that. So, you know, it's kind of a catch-22, and I think that NASCAR being the sport that it is, they're always going to have to allow it because it's just good, man. It's good racing. You know, it's part of it. And then every now and then you're going to get a Chris Buescher that can get up there and outrun them. So, you know, that's what's good about it. So I enjoy it.
And you know, so speaking of Chris Buescher, I tell you what, coming down to the final race with those guys, it was really cool to see that championship be so tight. And you know, you don't necessarily get that every year. And you know, now I'm kind of curious because it kind of changed the format as well and more of the chase atmosphere. But you know, it was really cool. You know, I've always been curious on this. As the Xfinity Series and the rules, and you're limited on your tires, you're limited on certain things. How difficult does that make that, knowing that you only get a certain amount of tires? So, you know, when you're testing, or not testing, when you're qualifying, you're practicing, and you race, you know that you're only going to be allotted a certain amount of tires, so you only get to kind of really do so much. How much strategy goes into that when you're trying to get your car adjusted just right for the race, and you know, and when you got those decisions during the race, whether or not to take new tires or whether or not you need to weight off a little bit because you only got a certain amount of tires, you know, and I understand why NASCAR does it, but I'm sure that, you know, that just got to make things a little bit more difficult, and strategy's got to be a big factor when you know that you have this certain amount, and that's all you got for the entire weekend.
Right, and if you have an unlimited budget, it definitely makes it more difficult. But NASCAR does a good job of allowing more tires. At Atlanta, we're getting 9 sets total, 6 sets, I believe, for the race. So that means you have 3 sets for practice that you have to turn back in. And at Daytona, we only get 5, and then you have 4 for the race. So they do a good job of changing it per track to how many tires you need to get a decent amount of practice time. And the only reason it's possible for a team like mine to survive in the Xfinity Series is rules like that makes it to where we don't have to show up and buy 20 sets of tires the day we get there, because it would just, your budget would go up $400,000 a year if it changed to that. And it's a rule that's got to be there. And to answer your question on difficulty, I don't think there's, usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours of practice at each track, unless there's an extended practice session. I think right now pretty much everybody has enough tires to be able to get the practice time they need, because we've got, such technology now as far as pull-down rigs and shaker rigs and, just all this different stuff and data and just different things that you leave the shop, with your splitter a quarter inch off the ground and you aren't adjusting that. You're literally just making race adjustments when you get there. And then, the really big teams have different shock setups already set up, and an A package and a B package, and, they have all kinds of stuff that they just run through, but half the time they go right back to what they had when they unloaded, and that's what they race. So it's I think right now it doesn't affect the sport as far as having a limit on tires right now. I think if anything, it's just a positive, because more teams can afford to race because of that.
Oh, yeah, and I definitely agree. I just didn't know if there was a lot of strategy. certain races you only get, certain tracks, the wear is a lot harder on the tire versus other tracks. And so I was always curious to, not so much the difficulty or, if the rule should apply. I understand the whole why the rule's there. It was just more of how much strategy goes involved. Let me rephrase that. How much strategy is involved with that, knowing that you got these certain amount of tires, that your pit window or your tire wear window is at this many laps or this many miles, and you need to work around that, or, do you want, is the car this much faster with fresher tires, and you want to kind of, try to find a way to save those tires towards the end, so you got a faster car towards the end. That whole kind of that whole scenario, that's kind of what I've always been curious, because it just seems that there would be a lot of strategy. You got a lot of drivers out there with the strategy when it comes to the weather. Now with the truck series, with the whole caution clock, there's a lot of things that could play into strategy. So I was always curious, especially with the limited tires, how much strategy goes into that to optimize your car to be the fastest it can be, especially at the end of the race.
Right, and you're correct. The fuel window governs a lot of that in Xfinity. Now that we have the caution clock in trucks, I personally, on another note, I'm excited to see what it does. I think that it's going to be great for the fans. I think it's going to be fun for the drivers, and I think there's positives for the owners. And we'll see how it goes caution-wise, because everybody knows cautions breed caution. So, we'll see how that ends up. And I think it's going to be really cool. And in my opinion, I want it in Xfinity too. But you always have to get to the track and let a year play out and see how it goes before you really ask for something. But my first thought is I think it's going to be something that makes the sport bigger, because you're going to get more of a fan base with that, because the NFL is huge, and you got to picture the NFL is NASCAR, but they have a wreck every 10 seconds or less, and then they have a caution, and then everybody lines back up and you start all over again. So, that's one reason they have the fan base they have. And with racing, you're not going to have the wrecks isn't what is going to bring the fans. It's having the nonstop side by side, and if you've got Kyle Busch out there, he decides to take tires and start dead last, and he comes to the lead in 3 laps, passing 3 and 4 wide on the top and everywhere else. It's just, it can create a lot of excitement, and I'm excited to see what it does for the sport, because I think it's actually going to build the fan base. It's going to be the number one positive to it. But, back to the strategy stuff on the tires, the crew chiefs have to decide, and then your really good drivers, Kyle, and you can listen on the radio and you guys know this, but you get Kyle and Kevin and those guys that know what they're doing. They help the crew chiefs and say, all right, I'm doing this, but you're correct. There is a ton of strategy in figuring out when you're going to take your last set of tires, and, well, you only take rights now because you want lefts later, or lefts now because you want rights later. It makes it interesting in the Xfinity Series having that rule. So there's a ton of strategy, but I still see that it's a good thing, because it just puts more game into it. That makes it more fun.
I tell you what, I'm very open-minded when it comes to this whole caution clock thing, but I would give anything in the world that the first race. I don't know if Daytona is part of this caution clock. I can't remember. It seemed like the Super Speedway one, but you correct me if I'm wrong. But the first race that this happened, I would love more than anything to have Tony Stewart as a team owner out there, and his guy be out front by 2 or 3 seconds, and towards the end of the race, and they throw that caution because that time hit the 20 minutes, and get his reaction, because we know Tony Stewart would just lay it out there the way he feels about it. I would give anything for that to be the perfect scenario, and we would find out at that point what the rule or the new caution clock is going to work or not, because we know Tony Stewart's not going to hold nothing back. So that would
he would definitely let you know, man. He would definitely let you know. But I think it's going to be interesting to see, and definitely looking forward to it, because we're there to put on a show. And as a driver, if I'm leading by 3 seconds and that caution clock comes out and I lose my lead and then lose it on a restart, I'm going to be upset at myself, number one, for losing it on the restart, because I obviously had the fastest truck or car. But on the other hand, you're going to be like, well, if that caution clock wasn't there, I could have won the race. Just because that's just being a racer. Like, you can just say that stuff. Yeah. But as the owner goes, what puts sponsors on the cars is the fans in the stands, and what does that is putting on a show. And I'm curious to see. I really think it's going to make a good show of the Truck Series having the caution clock, and then, if they could move it up to Xfinity, I think it would help that too. But like you said, we just got to wait and see. You'll get the fireworks after it happens.
And it always blows my mind because NASCAR fans, and everybody knows this about me. I am NASCAR first, and then all the rest of the sports following behind it. I can remember back as far as '84 watching this sport when I was 6 years old, and NASCAR fans are creatures of habit. They like to complain about the way things are, but they don't want things to change at the same time. And I think the chase format is a prime example. They weren't happy because we would have with the Cup Championship, we could potentially have a champion crowned a race or two out. So they changed the system. Nobody gave it an opportunity. Was all boo-hooing about it. Then you kind of warmed up to it, and then now you got the contender rounds and all that nobody was boo-hooing about. And then the last 2 years, it's been. I don't think you could have asked for two better Final 10 races with all the fights, with the Matt Kenseth stuff and everything else. NASCAR fans are funny to me because as much as they complain about things, they don't want things to change at the same time. And this is another prime example. Obviously we're getting mixed reviews from the fans without even seeing it yet. You don't even give it an opportunity. A couple final questions real quick. I want to get you out of here. All right. Speaking of the chase, we saw a couple things happen at the end of last year, and as a team owner and a driver, I want to get an opportunity to get your thoughts on it. We watched Harvick, regardless if he felt that he wrecked himself at the restart to put him into the next round. That's here nor there. As a driver and an owner, regardless if you feel that he intentionally took out the field to freeze the field so he got in, one, do you have an issue with drivers kind of doing those kind of things? To me, it's kind of a mixed feeling because if I'm Kevin Harvick and I know me going to the championship race depends on that field ending the way it does, I probably in the back of my mind, as competitive as I am, I probably would have found a way to end that race as quick as possible as well. But knowing as a fan and knowing how unethical that really was, regardless if he felt he did it or not, I also understand that wasn't the best of. And then also the retaliation, it got a lot of reaction, regardless if you like what Kenseth did, if you agree on how the back and forth it went. Does NASCAR, I guess a better question, does NASCAR need to do a better job of regulating and how they handle things, or should it have been left as boys were being boys and that was kind of the way it should have ended?
Well, it's starting with the Harvick scenario. The way I look at that is, we're all friends, like I said, when we're not at the track. But the thing is, when I drive my car and I've watched my guys, actually right now I'm at my race car shop and my guys are getting my car ready for Daytona. And anytime, I've never had a chance to win in NASCAR or be competitive. I'm trying to get there. But going back to my super late model days when I could win, every time I was in a position to win or to do something because I had a good car, because my guys had worked hard and gave it to me, I did it. Now, I wouldn't blatantly wreck somebody to win, but I would sure push them around or move them up, or, I would make stuff happen. And I think in the same situation, if I was in Harvick's car, if he did it on purpose or not, I'm going to say that I would have done my best to cause a caution right there. I wouldn't have wanted to wreck half the field doing it because I don't, want to cause other crew members work. But the thing is, he's there for his guys, and he's there for his wife and his family and his sponsors and all the fans. And that's what got him into the last round or the next round. And I would say that you have to do it because it's you're there to win, man. It don't matter what you have to do, you're there. I'm there to win. This is my opinion. I'm there to win. And the reason I'm there is because my guys have been away from their families all week putting those cars together so they can go to the track and win, because the only reason we're here is we love the sport and we love racing and we love trying to be the fastest. So if I have a chance to make sure I'm going to be in that next round, you can bet I'm going to do it, and then the rest, whatever follows. So I'm just that kind of guy, and I, like I said, if Harvick did it on purpose, then so be it. If he didn't, it don't matter. He still got there. So that's just part you have to do. And a lot of people may not agree with that, but there's people that are that way, that are racers, and it's just, it just is what it is, man. You gotta pick how you are and go for it, and always support your guys and the people that got you there, and all your fans and everybody, and just do the best you can. So moving on to the Kenseth deal, I don't know, because you can't put yourself in that situation. You don't know everything that's going on in the garage and words that have been said, and sometimes things that get said there mean more than what happens on the track, or you don't have a whole scenario. I don't see myself waiting on him to take him out, and ruining his day like that. But I can definitely say, if I get pushed around like Kenseth thought he had been pushed around, and we all have seen some of it, I would have definitely done the same thing, as far as Logano would have been missing some wheels somewhere in one of the future races. It's just part of it. But waiting on him and taking him out, I just don't know that I would have done it that way. But that's just my opinion, and it's just one thing's good about being human. Everybody gets one, so we can look at it, and we all get to decide whether it was right or wrong. But you don't know what all was going on until you're actually there with those guys, and none of us will ever know the truth to that. So it's just what it is.
Now, I'm really curious. Kyle Busch's name has been thrown up a handful of times, and this is kind of a two-part question here. One, seeing what Kyle Busch accomplished from the wreck at Daytona that put him out for like 9 races, to him coming back and him winning 4 races, getting into the chase, and eventually winning the Sprint Cup. You as an athlete, you talk about being in the gym 5-6 days a week and in a very physically good position yourself. How impressive, as a fellow athlete, how impressive to you is it to see what Kyle Busch was able to overcome and be able to accomplish what he accomplished? And then even more, as I know you were listening before I got you on the show, I know a lot of people were not thrilled and not happy with the fact that he was given the pardon, was allowed into the chase, even though he met the requirements. And I know he did 9 less races, which should even say more about Kyle Busch as a driver. But of course, Kyle Busch being one of the most hated drivers, and that kind of changed a little bit as the year went along, as people started gaining more respect, especially since it looked like he kind of changed with the whole birth of his child and everything else. But and like I was asking, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Tony Stewart's going to possibly be in the same scenario, coming back partway into the season, coming off an injury, and it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't a race-caused injury, and I think that's where I excuse Kyle Busch a little bit more, that, NASCAR, they try their hardest to stay up with safety measures, and unfortunately sometimes events happen that, okay, we didn't think about that until this happened, such as the whole Kyle Busch thing happened at Daytona. Well, they didn't think about, maybe we need to blacktop that so they have a better chance of stopping before they hit the inside wall versus sliding through the grass, which you get no traction and no chance really to slide down. You actually probably kind of even gain a little bit of speed going through that grass. And so I kind of feel more for the Kyle Busch scenario, because it was, I'm not going to say it was NASCAR's fault, but it was one of those things that was kind of overlooked until it happened. And like I said, unfortunately, Dale King is a prime example. In the safer barrier walls, we don't realize things sometimes until it's too late. Say Tony Stewart comes back partway through the season. Say he at least misses the same amount of races. One, do you think that if he's given the same opportunity and makes the most of that opportunity, one, should he be allowed to be in the chase, such as Kyle Busch, or if you even think Kyle Busch should have been in there? And two, do you think he'll get the same backlash because it's smoke versus Kyle Busch?
Well, I think the way you have to look at it now, first of all, let's clear up the athletic side of Kyle making a comeback with, I know his broken leg was horrific from pictures I've seen, and it was definitely horrible. So for him to come back and get in a car, I think it was, 3 months later or less, that's insane. Like he definitely had drive, wanted to get it done, and I'm, that's awesome. Like I'm completely thrilled that he was able to pull that off because, anybody, you look down and you got one foot pointed one direction and one laying behind you, it can make you wonder what's going on. So, he come back from that and never even missed a beat. So that's incredible, and I hope that if that ever happened to me one day that I would be as strong as he was. But nobody can know until you're put in that situation. So that was incredible for him to make that comeback. And then I think with the format we live in now with the chase stuff and the contender rounds and all that stuff, in my opinion, without a doubt, Kyle Busch should have been allowed back in. I don't even think he should have had to be in the top 30. I think it should be about winning races because that's what the current system's set around. And I would say the same for Tony Stewart. If he can come back and win one race before the chase starts, he should be allowed a spot because you're a winner. And if you win one Sprint Cup race anytime during the year, you deserve a chance at running for the Sprint Cup. So now going back to the old system, I still understand and respected the way that championships were supposed to be about a driver that was smart and used his head and finished in the top 10 every single week, and it was good at every single track and just could do things that it took to put a whole year together. Be disciplined, not wreck that guy for the win when you had a chance, just to make sure you kept that second place finish. Like, that's the way the championships were before the chase, and I understand that scenario. And in that scenario, then Kyle Busch and Tony Stewart wouldn't have got a chance. But the way it's set up now, and I think it's extremely exciting now, it's fun to watch as a fan. It takes some of the fun out as an owner, I believe, because there's different years that different people figure out different things, and it puts them ahead of the field. You see it, you can cycle through 10 years, and Hendrick's on top 1 year or 2 years or 3 or 4, whatever, and then Gibbs is on top, and then, RCR has been on top. Like, you have those years, and those years you want to run off with the championship and be done with it at Phoenix and say, I'm the champion. So as an owner, the chase has definitely hurt that, but it has done a lot for the sport, and I don't know what the superstar drivers' opinions are on it, but I wonder if they don't have fun with it because it is so much about winning, and all you have to do is win one race. So you can wreck trying in 2 or 3 of them, and as long as you win one, you move on to the next round. So I would want to say, even though I'm nowhere near that caliber or that experience level, I would want to say that I would be excited for the way the chase is now because it's about going and winning races. And that's the reason everybody turns the TV on, and it's the reason everybody shows up at the race car shop in the morning is trying to go win. So I think it's definitely interesting.
All right, I'm going to wrap you up with 3 personal questions. They're all going to be real quick answers. I'm going to get you out of here. First, if you picked number 78, is there a personal meaning behind the number 78? Second of all, as you were growing up, what was that driver that you idolized growing up? And third of all, what's your preference of track? Is it a road course, short track, intermediate, or a super speedway?
All right. I would say, first of all, 78 was my number all the way back in go-karts from age 5. And I picked that number because my parents owned the super late models, 76 and 77. So we were literally out in the old shop when I lettered my first go-kart. And they said, what number you want? And we took, I think, Walmart numbers or something and put 78 on there. So that's where that started. And I was just fortunate enough that nobody owns it in Xfinity yet, or you don't own the numbers, but nobody was issued the 78 yet, and we were able to get it. And I actually got it in the truck too, so it'll be 78 in trucks and Xfinity. So we, that's where that comes from. And then, secondly, what was the other question you asked me? I'm sorry.
Growing up, driver you idolized or your favorite driver?
Yes. The favorite driver. See, it changes through the years because I watched NASCAR ever since I was 5 years old. My favorite driver all time is Richard Petty. Okay, hands down. There's nobody else that compares to him to me. But it always changes with time. And Jeff Gordon's definitely somebody that I tried to be like. And then Earnhardt Sr., I sincerely miss him now that he's not in the sport. Like it's just hard to not have him here. So I definitely really, really miss him. And then we've got Jimmy Johnson. To me, is just incredible. So I think he's an athlete off the track. He's an athlete on the track. He's a machine. Like he's just insane. And I actually knew Jimmy a long time ago, and before he made it to actually when he was he was staying with Jeff Gordon, I believe, there for a little bit to right when he got the ride with the Lowe's. And he's just an awesome guy. He's just a nice guy, and that guy has not changed at all as far as trying to make sure he's better each year. I mean, he lost 5 pounds one off season because he knew that was the only way he could help his team. And I mean, he's in incredible shape. So, that's definitely my current day, guy that I like the most. But it's definitely changed through the years.
And what's your preference on track? What track do you like the best? Is it Bristol short track racing, Charlotte, the 2-mile track? I know we got a bunch of mile-high tracks out there, or possibly even a super speedway.
Well, favorite one track is Indianapolis Motor Speedway right now, and that's because I've been on it. I've cranked the car up, drove out, and went down the backstretch and thought, wow, this is incredible. How many Indianapolis 500s have I watched here? I think I've never raced on Daytona before, so I'm looking forward to that and what it makes me feel like. I think it'll be really close to Indianapolis. As far as actual racing, I prefer Bristol, Martinsville, the short tracks. They're my favorite. Bristol, Martinsville, without a doubt, as far as racing itself, because I just love it. You can save the cars. You can do a lot more than you can do on a mile and a half because you're only running 100 mile an hour versus, 180 or 190. But then again, there's nothing that gives you a thrill like running a mile and a half track. With the truck, an Xfinity car truck, you're definitely wide open some. Xfinity car, I was almost wide open at Kansas and ended up losing it, but it was fun till it spun out. And then, with the Cup car, I can't imagine that at a mile and a half. Like, that would just be insane. So, they all have their different characteristics that make them all interesting, and I love the fact that NASCAR's got all the tracks it's got because there's not one that right now I don't look forward to going to.
Now, I kind of said, because I got one more question. Another reason is because you brought up all three of these names, and from a driver, I've always been curious to know this. With the cars being different, the competition level being different, with the rules in NASCAR being different, the championship being decided differently, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. If Jimmy Johnson was to win one more championship, put him on the same level ground as Senior and Richard Petty, do you as a driver, do you view him just as much of a champion? I know this is a big debate. Just as much of a champion as Senior and as the King. And then likewise, if he was to go on to win number 8, does that put him above them with all the changes in NASCAR? Or as a driver and someone that you obviously have liked all three of those drivers, how do you rank them if he goes 7 and if he goes number 8?
Well, I would say from a driver's standpoint, I believe that you do the best you can in your current situation and the year you were born with the timing that you have and the things you're surrounded by. So I believe that each one of those guys at their time was the best. They just did. And Jimmy still is. I mean, he's currently doing this. So I think in my mind, they all are equal. Honestly, they're equal. And that's not a political answer. It's just the best one I can give because Richard Petty won his 7. I think he won the last one after Earnhardt Sr. was a mix in it, but, Earnhardt Sr. was winning there towards the end of Petty's career, and, it was all an age bracket and, doing the best you could with the times you had and the cars you were dealt, things like that. And I think they're honestly, in my book, they're all even. Now, there's things that separate them apart, in my opinion, as far as Richard Petty got in his first car with probably a flap helmet and a lap belt, and I just think that's crazy. Like I'm not scared of anything to do with a race car. Okay, like nothing. I'll do whatever I have to do to win, but just putting it back in that day, I can't possibly know what it was like to drive that car because I mean they can hit walls and fly out, land in the back seat. It was just insane the way that they got in and drove those cars and built our sport, and they risked their lives literally every Saturday or Sunday doing it, and they did it because they loved it. It it was just insane to see. You watch the old videos and stuff. I watch them all the time, and it's just an unbelievable deal that they did that. So I think there's different ways that Richard would have been better than Jimmy, and Singer was better than Richard, or different things like that. But it's all to do with the times and the cars you have, and they all three. When Jimmy Johnson was handed a ride, he won a championship a year or two later. Richard Petty was handed a ride, and guess what? He was a winner. Dale Earnhardt Sr. worked hard, got his ride, and he was a winner. So I don't think that Jimmy's above Earnhardt or Earnhardt's above Petty or any of them. I think they all have done equally the same. And I think if Jimmy wins 8 championships, that he would tell you that he's not better than Earnhardt Sr. or better than Richard Petty. He's just done the most he can do with his opportunity, and he's done an incredible job at that. So I just look up to those guys, and every day it probably goes through my mind thinking about what they accomplished with the stuff they have. And it's just in today's world with the competition that you have in Sprint Cup, it is insane. And anybody that looks at a qualifying printout from Bristol or Martinsville and sees 45 cars within 2.5 tenths knows the answer to that. I mean, you're lifting, braking, rolling, and back to throttle twice. So you're doing everything twice, and to be within 2.5 tenths of a second, which is just over the blink of an eye, it's nuts. And for Jimmy and Rick Hendrick and Chad Knaus to be able to win 7 championships in this modern day is incredible. Or going to try to win 7. They've already won 6. It's incredible. So like I said, I think they all have reasons that they're different and they stand out. But in my mind, they all are equal and did an incredible job.
And talking about the equipment back then, just to think about the Kyle Larson wreck that happened a few years ago, that Dylan boy, not Ty, why am I drawing a blank? Yes, I don't know why I cannot think of that. It's all right. About his wreck last year, the year before, whenever he had that horrifying wreck at Daytona. And just think back in the day, they pretty much just had a guardrail at certain parts of the track, no catch fence, no wall. It just, not to even mention the lap belt and the flat top and everything else, but just, to know what they were able to walk away from the sport with the catch fence and the wall, Larson and Dylan were, but back in the day, keep them on the track. It blows my mind. It was just like it was Russian roulette every time they went out on the track, and they didn't think twice about it. They went ahead and did it like it was, every day at the office, and that was really the end of it. So I definitely agree. Looking at some of those old videos, you just sit there and think to yourself, what was y'all thinking, And one thought thing, I'm going to get you off here. My father, I forget which lady it was, but he crew chief, or not crew chief, but pit crew for a lady driver back in 77 when my mom was pregnant with me. And he was an outside tire changer, and he said that was by far the scariest thing he had ever done, because back then with the no speed limit and everything else, and those cars come flying by as you're trying to change tires, it was just beyond insanity. And we have Holmeyer, who used to crew chief Tim Richmond, and he's been with Jimmy Johnson and Jeff O'Dine and most other drivers. He said back in the day that what they would do was swing the tires out far enough to try to make the drivers try to slow down and avoid that. And he never thought about it. And we was asking about it. He helped make Days of Thunder, and I was like, didn't you all ever think what would happen if one of those cars actually hit that tire with no speed limit going down pit road? Where that tire would go? What can end up happening? He's like, what? We never even. And I'm just like, these people never thought about the things that we constantly think about today, in the constant trying to make this sport safer. Back then, it was just like they had nerves of steel, and there was nails going through their veins because they did whatever they wanted and didn't really think about the consequences. They just went out to take care of business and win the race, however they could win the race, and whatever they were, luckily to sit in or work with, and that was kind of the end of it.
Yeah, definitely. Pit road's insane, man. I've had a couple people, because I am athletic, say, well, you want to jack this weekend or something, back 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I told them there is no way I'm getting on pit road. Like, those guys are incredible athletes. They're It's just crazy. Like, we literally, at Daytona, I believe the speed limit is 55 mile an hour on pit road now. And, I mean, like you said, go back, 10, 15 years, and there's no speed limit. And it's just people flying down pit road 80, 90 mile an hour. For a race fan, to get a perspective of that is go stand in the middle of, an interstate, whatever your local interstate is, and just hope you don't get hit. Like, that's what it's like, because it's a 70 mile an hour speed limit most places. So it's just insane what those guys do every single weekend, and I think they're awesome, because there's no way I'll flip that car 15 times, catch on fire. It doesn't bother me, get knocked out. None of that bothers me. I am not getting on pit road and taking a chance on getting hit. So just not happening. But I have a ton of respect for those pit crew members.
Yeah, especially when you got the drivers out there doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's crazy. But then you get two drivers such as like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, when they're going through their beefing, and and now they're beating and banging as they're going down pit road and everything else. It's crazy down there. I've not been on pit road, but I've done enough media and enough races for the last 3 years to be down there in the thick of things and know how crazy it is. Oh my God, I cannot imagine, not only having to worry about everything else, but then you got to do everything in like 12 to 14 seconds and be out, or you're costing your team a whole bunch of spots. And I tell you what, those guys are truly athletes. Not that the drivers are any less athletes, and it blows my mind how many people out there try to downplay and say drivers are not athletes. You go sit in a car that you're gonna feel the temperature to somewhere around 150 degrees by the end of the race, and the G-forces and the constant turning the wheels and everything else, and tell me how worn out you are by the end of the race.
Oh yeah, it beats you up mentally. Sometimes you got to be mentally strong more than physically, but I think it's funny too, because I have a ton of respect for NFL and all the athletes and everything and what they do, and I love watching them. And the same thing though, I know I could name 10 Cup drivers that could go to an NFL combine and have fun, actually not look bad. So that side of it is really cool. And then every driver out there has to deal with the heat. You have an AC, but what everybody don't understand is that AC takes 140 degree air and turns it into 90 degree air, or 110 degree air and turns it into 60 degree air. Like, it's still warm inside those cars. And we run right side windows in Xfinity and Cup at, I believe, every track. And when you do that, it turns into an oven. And like Darlington mid-year, you're inside of your car. I mean, they had the thermostats in them last year, 155 degrees for 3 hours. So you got to be mentally strong. You have to be cardiovascular. You've got to have everything set to be good in a race car. And they are definitely all athletes. The Sprint Cup guys that run every weekend, they don't have a choice. So they are definitely athletes.
Most definitely. I tell you what, I didn't expect you to keep you this long by no stretch of the imagination. Usually 30 minutes I'm on top of it. I get everybody out of here at the latest. I got to admit, this has been a very enjoyable experience here. I get the opportunity probably to talk to anywhere from 4 to 6 racers a week, and it always blows my mind to hear everybody's life story and get to know how their career is going and the decisions they've made and everything else. And I honestly didn't even break into any of that, and would love sometime in the future have another opportunity to kind of get to know you as a person and what you went through to get where you're at, at another time. But just be able to pick your brain and get your insight on so many of these different topics, I got to admit, is probably one of my more entertaining and funner interviews, because you kind of, not that we crossed any lines, but you were willing to answer everything to the honest and fullest that your capabilities, and kind of addressed everything that I was curious about, and it's really been a big delight to have you on tonight.
Well, I just appreciate you having me on. I've had a blast talking to you, and I've enjoyed your questions, and I've always been an honest person and do the best I can. It's hard to answer questions when you're not in the people's situations, but we can always form opinions and say what we think, and I try to do the best I can with the most knowledge I have. So thanks for having me on here. It's been great. And to everybody listening, don't forget to check out Batteries Plus or batteriesplus.com and check out everything they've got going. They just started tablet and phone repair. So if you break your phone or your tablet, you can go in, get it fixed at any local Batteries Plus. So just check them out, help me out. I'm trying to get to the racetrack and have some fun this year. So thank you very much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun, man.
Thank you. Definitely we'll stay in contact with you. Definitely good luck on this season and moving forward, and hopefully we get you back here real soon.
Yep, anytime, man. Just give me a call. All right? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And for those that want to get out there to Battery Plus and support your local Battery Plus to help support this race team, go out. The local one for us is out there on Sycamore Dairy Road behind the McDonald's, right there across from, there's a big shopping center right there by the Omni Theater. I don't know the exact address. I can just tell you it's almost across from the batting cages, next to the, I want to say it's a Kawasaki dealership. It used to be Kawasaki. I don't know what kind of motorcycle dealership it is now. Right behind the McDonald's, right there where Sycamore Dairy and Bragg Boulevard reconnect, car dealership right there, almost across from the Ghost Gym and the old movie theater, right up the road from the flea market, the only big flea market on Bragg Boulevard. Right there in Fayetteville, not even 5 minutes off Fort Bragg. Battery Plus right there, local branch. Make sure you guys go check them out. Help support them so they can continue to help support this great race team. Love having BJ on. I tell you what, I get to do this quite often. We got 2 more drivers coming back this week, and hopefully we'll get Cole Powell back on. It was a miscommunication earlier in the show. We were supposed to have him on at 9:30. But this is by far got to be one of the most enjoyable interviews I've gotten the opportunity to have, and you can tell because, like I said, most of the time, 30 minutes, I cut it off. Either I've run out of questions, they don't have the answers, or they're in a time restriction, and I try my hardest because I feel bad enough. That I watch all these other, ESPN, Fox Sports, and they might be on 5, 10, 15 minutes the most. We are blessed with the guests we have on because they give us usually about 30 minutes. We've had a few that couldn't stay that long, and I make sure I kept it within the time frame that they allotted us. But most of them, they stick around for 30 minutes, and I'm blessed, and I thank God every single day because of this. It's not every day you get this opportunity. But for it to drag, I'm not going to say drag, it was not a drag, but for it to go on as long as it did tonight, it was truly a blessing. And I could have went on. I could have made a full 2-hour show just talking to him. I mean, that's how much fun I was having. And like I said, I didn't even break into, a lot of the questions or a lot of things. I'm always curious, what it was like, going through school and college and, all these other things and things that, you're most proud of throughout your, I could have went on for another hour easily before I even had to slow down with questions. So I Miss Lee, I know you're going to be either listening to it. I know you're online right now. So either I know you're listening to me now or you're listening to me on. We are definitely a few races into the season, and he gets an opportunity to kind of get everything in focus. I can only imagine how hectic it's about to get with the season starting. Definitely love to have an opportunity to him come back on, and definitely like to sit there and chat. It's funny because I don't even really call it an interview. And, I know technically it is, but to me it's more of a conversation is what it really is. Because I don't feel that I feel the way I conduct myself is almost like we're sitting and just having a conversation, like I'm talking to anybody else, and it's really cool. It's just more questions versus talking. But I really love how smooth these interviews. Well, I use these with air quotes, but I like to call them conversations. But definitely enjoyed myself tonight, and definitely excited about that. Miss Lee is working on smoothing things over with the miscommunication with Cole Powell. It seems that they were under the impression we were supposed to call. I was under the assumption that they were supposed to call. If I'd have known, I would have called him. I think I've only had to ever call one of our guests. So that's the Miss Lee and his PR kind of miscommunicated a little bit right there, with that. And I was supposed to say call him back when we got done with this interview, but like I told Miss Lee, I sent her a message that I never made it to Cole. This interview is freaking awesome. You'll have to reschedule it, being how now it's already after 11 o'clock. So hopefully we will be able to pull in sometime either tomorrow or Friday before they run their race. The ARCA Series runs their race this weekend at Daytona. And, of course, like I said, we got Dylan Lumpton and we got Sarah Cornett-Chain joining us Friday. Very excited about that. Don't forget, Monday we have Tim Lathan, the founder of Seek to Destroy Cancer, which is a big event they have coming down here in Fayetteville. We are one of the sponsors. With cancer being such a big thing in my family, I constantly try to do what we can to help all those different foundations that are raising money to help seek and destroy cancer, essentially. Big event, March 19th here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He's got a lot of wrestling superstars that are going to be participating in this event, a big deal, a lot of wrestlers. So very excited about being part of that. And then, of course, we're working on getting Tommy Danger back on the show. He is the PR, used to be the PR for 3M. I met him at Bristol Motor Speedway. He walked away from that to work on his foundation, More Than Just Me, raising money for cystic fibrosis. We helped sponsor his event 2 years ago, More Than Just Miles down in Florida. Miscommunication last year. It was just bad timing, and I had switched phones and wasn't getting the emails. Or we went sponsored last year. We're back on it this year. We want to be involved with that. Tommy Dangers climbed 4 summits of the world to raise money for cystic fibrosis. He's ran from coast to coast, doing 20 miles a day to raise money for cystic fibrosis. He's done a lot of things. He's constantly active, and I tell you what, talking about athletes, he might not participate in the sport, but the things he does, the summits he has climbed, the coast-to-coast running that he has done, he ran marathon-length runs 7 days straight to 26.2 miles to raise money. Everything that he has done, that by far is probably one of the most athletic, non-sports people that I've probably ever have had an opportunity to meet and or talk to. So very excited about being part of that. Very excited about having Tommy back on the show and get caught up with all the great things he has done since the last time we had him on the show. Don't forget, you can check us out. You can find me on Twitter at CJSports1. You can find the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check out my personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports, the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Check out our blog site, the 110nationsports.com. We've probably dropped over the last week probably about a good 10 to 12 press releases to get you guys ready for the 2016 season. I got some articles coming out that are non-racing subjected, I guess is the word I'm looking for, topics that I'll be getting out tomorrow for those non-race fans. I don't know how you cannot be a race fan, but anyway. And then also check out our company site, www.the110nation.com, for all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Don't forget, tomorrow night, back at it again. Looking forward to it. Until then, you guys have a great night.
Thanks for listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show with Mr. CJ Sports. You are a part of the 110 Nation, so be sure to visit the110nation.com for everything related to the show. You can follow CJ on Twitter at 110Nation and on Facebook at 110 Nation Sports. Until next time.
There are lots of things you can spend your tax refund on, but one thing you don't have to spend it on, a new smartphone. Switch to Metro PCS now and get not one, but 2 free 4G LTE smartphones for brands like Samsung and LG. Plus, you're on T-Mobile's blazing fast nationwide 4G LTE network. Hurry! Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free smartphones after instant rebate. One heck of a deal, only at Metro PCS. Limited time offer. Sales tax not included in phone price. Coverage and services not available everywhere. See store for details and terms and conditions.